Imagine 6 guys dropped onto a remote tropical island to compete for $250,000. It sounds like a standard survival setup, except the person controlling their fate, the ultimate boss of this island, is their mutual ex-girlfriend. This flowchart lays out exactly how the system works. The competitors enter a 30-segment timeline, representing 30 days. If a player makes it all the way to the end, they face a final decision node: split the $250,000 with their ex, or steal the entire prize for themselves. But getting to that node requires surviving the elimination checkpoints. Every 5 days, the hammer falls. The ex-girlfriend, acting as the sole dungeon master, evaluates the remaining men and permanently deletes one player from the board. Success here is measured through social appeasement. It is a psychological environment where the only real survival tool is navigating the perspective of the person holding the hammer. Right from day one, the camp splits into 2 distinct factions. Several of the guys immediately start catering to the boss, fetching cold water and stringing up a comfortable hammock in the shade. The others decide to hang back and keep their distance. Jake takes that detached strategy to the extreme. He openly refuses to engage in the social game, acting aloof, and even tells his ex that she's too old for him. That strategy immediately backfires. On day 5, the ex wields a literal hammer and smashes a stone block bearing Jake's name, instantly sending him packing. That single swing sends a psychological shockwave through the remaining 5 men. Up until that exact second, they were treating the island like a casual vacation. Now they realize their safety is a complete illusion. Jake's departure signals a shift in the camp's internal logic. With the first elimination based on engagement rather than survival skill, the players are forced to abandon passivity and start actively maneuvering. By the time day 10 rolls around, a new complexity variable dictates the game. This radar chart maps 2 forces: romantic connection and trust level. Look how the probability shifts for Mitchell. He holds the highest romantic connection, but he's calculated and admits he'd take all the cash. His plummeting trust level spikes the risk of a steal outcome. So on day 10, the hammer comes down on Mitchell. The player with the strongest romantic tie is eliminated without hesitation, completely upending everyone's assumption that romance equals safety. In a game that culminates in a massive financial split, charm is a liability if you can't be trusted. Perceived trustworthiness is the ultimate and most volatile survival currency. Approaching day 15, Danny finds himself in the crosshairs. His highly antagonistic behavior and constant complaining have completely depleted his social capital. He is clearly marked for the next elimination. But the system suddenly introduces a mechanical loophole, an ocean puzzle relay, where the winner is granted absolute immunity. For the first time, a player can bypass the social game entirely. Danny relies on pure physical desperation to exploit this. While the other exhausted players float in the water to catch their breath between crashing waves, Danny swims back to the beach, resting his muscles while actively assembling his puzzle on the sand. He outsmarts the rest of the field, finishes the puzzle first, and secures an immunity cage around his symbolic heart. He actively strips the dungeon master of her power to eliminate him. But because Danny forced his own survival, the system demands an alternate casualty. Logan, a player who had built a solid social game and played by the rules, takes the hit and goes home. For players on the brink of social collapse, raw mechanical grinding and exploiting the game's rules provide the only viable alternative to the hammer. As the player count dwindles to just 3 men, the environment becomes suffocating. The players enter a complete information vacuum. The stress of repeatedly sending people home finally breaks the dungeon master's patience. Ashley isolates herself, completely cutting off the social feedback loop the surviving men rely on to gauge their safety. Plunged into silence, Danny, Gary, and Derek turn inward. They begin to overthink every past conversation, question their alliances, and heavily rethink their endgame strategies for the final prize. That mental exhaustion compounds the physical toll. The Day 20 challenge requires the men to stand on narrow wooden platforms in the ocean, shifting the game from calculated strategy to a test of raw, brutal endurance. The weeks of grinding wear them down. Just 35 seconds into the challenge, Derek loses his footing and plummets into the water below. Conquering the island requires a synergy of social manipulation, tactical cunning, and raw physical endurance. By the final days, only the players who balance these three systems remain standing.